Hello, thanks a lot for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the last episode. In this one, me, Mark, and Ross are going to be talking about what needs your super rares can be, should be, probably will be fulfilling. So it's about that target identification, and we'll go into all that kind of stuff in the video today. Like, subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. If you enjoy the content, it means so much to me. Thanks very much for all the support, and I will see you on the next one. Now, when I'm thinking about super rares, acquisition strategy, all that kind of thing, one thing that I always kind of think about is, what do I need this super rare to do? What does it actually activate for me for my gallery? We kind of touched on this a little bit, I suppose, towards the end of the last one. Before yourselves, when you were looking at the super rares, as you were amassing them, as you were acquiring them, when you were looking at them, what were you looking at them and thinking, I need you to do? Was it just all competition based? Where some of them, market opportunities? How did you kind of review your purchases as you were making them?
I think when you sort of look at who I went in and bought, first of all, just from an acquisition standpoint, I sometimes thought, like you would captain someone, Quinny, who would I want as a super rare in this team? And it tends to be that if you look at it that way, then there's going to be other people that do as well, especially if someone's somewhat popular on the platform. And then essentially what I need them to do is not prop up the team, but I've you'll notice a sort of trend across all the people that I've got, apart from one or two punts, that these people have got solid baselines and they'll be the backbone of the team. And there's the odd one or two, like we spoke about Sting before, who I think can go and be that gem in the team. So in terms of some of them that I've spent a little bit more money on, I'm expecting to be the main man. And then I've also got some really solid, steady super rares that are going to score you 55, 60 with their bonus and get them straightened up and stuff. That's going to be the backbone of the team.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think more recently, obviously the Shakhtar guys, they're playing in Europe recently, and also when I was sort of with the AMA, they were talking about doing the deal with Opta and making sure all the leagues are scored. I was really thinking from a Shakhtar point of view that it's inevitable that they'll want Dynamo Kiev and that Ukraine will be scored at some point. So obviously I really like the Shakhtar guys. I've got Marlos, the European games coming up. Dodo is one I really wanted for the future. So even if they don't score Ukraine, I just feel as if he's quite capable of going to a big club. So these guys, I think, have got lots of upside. Like Marlos, we think, it's 32 or whatever, but he's got Euros coming up. Maybe I'll cover something like that. And then you've worst case scenario, you've got Europe next year and things as well. So I'm always kind of looking for thinking ahead. Obviously, price range wise, if you want 20 super rares and you want the top guys, you're really going to have to get your wallet out. But if you want to get guys affordable price, then you've got to kind of plan for a young guy or somebody who's the league's not on or whatever, something's upcoming. And the guy Kosing Guillaume, it's easy for me to say, and he's actually quite a good scorer in general. K-League, it's not a very good standard in general, but he's quite a good scorer in general. The league's back soon, and I've actually bought his rare, and no intention of buying his super rare. Somebody won him as a prize, he put him up for 120 quid, 0.100, and I thought,
wow,
that's actually pretty good value for a super rare. He is actually a reasonable scorer, and it's K-League, so these guys can churn out good scores quite regularly because of the general standard of the league. So with him and the guys obviously Vako or Kazashvili maybe moving to Ulsan, or hopefully is moving to Ulsan, so excited about it now. And then obviously I picked up guys like Suga and Shanatip and things, so just kind of going of an angle where I would have kind of strong sort of Asian type cards, but I can also play them in the global, obviously. So I've not just been targeting Asia. I've been looking to kind of get these guys to give me options in the global D3 as well. Just kind of have a good mix so that I've got a wee bit of choice there as well. Some are younger guys, some guys that can play who I think will score quite well in the leagues as well.
Yeah. I think I'm much the same in terms of just to add on to your point there, Mark. Sorry, Brian. Just to add on, I've sort of tried to give myself a good enough spread where when everything's flowing and we've got all these leagues back and they're sort of overlapping, I maybe wouldn't leave myself too thin in sort of one area. So I've got sort of a few Asian defenders, which can be, there's one of them that can be used under 23s. One of them is sort of more of a global pick, and one of them is sort of more of a champion Asia pick. So as Liam is short there, the same as with someone like Ryan Acosta, who just picked up cheap. He might be more of a champion in America, but someone like Zel Ryan, when he's on form, he's easily a global D3 pick. And it's the sort of thing that I look further afield and think, would someone want to pick him up from me to then put in a D2, for example? Someone who then becomes valuable when he's in form and stuff like that. So sort of thought ahead and like yourself, I also picked up because I feel or Seiko super rare, and he was more of an opportunity one. Someone put him up for 0.1 ETH. Just thought it was someone who had been tracking for a while. He wasn't a punt, but it was at that sort of price. Sometimes you just got to pick the opportunity over the utility at that moment in time.
Yeah.
And it's so happened that I think it's going to work out now. I've had a few very cheeky offers from people coming in for him.
It must be cheeky.
It does get quite annoying.
Some of the Discord chat this week's been funny on Twitter, in terms of some of the offers that go about and all the rest of it. But,
somebody offered me £1.27 for a Guri.
Oh wow, how generous of them. Jesus.
Let me think about that.
I think what both of you said there's kind of similar, like I was kind of saying in the last one, in terms of when I got my Trippy, and then when I actually did the exact same thing as you, Ross, when you're talking about just buying them on the cheap, and similar to you as well, Mark. When I got Ruffier, so I thought, oh, he's definitely going to come back, and he's a top goalkeeper. He'll definitely go to somebody and play football, and having a super rare goalkeeper in my back pocket, waiting to come to fruition will be brilliant. And then what does he do? He goes and joins like the fourth tier of France and becomes our sporting director or something. I was just like, oh my god. So yeah, it's obviously a gamble with some of these things, especially when it's somebody as mental as Stefan Ruffier. But sometimes you've got to take those opportunities, and ones like the Quasisvili for both of these has paid off massively, because in the K-League he is like a Cestina level player potentially, or a Pozuelo, level player potentially in terms of the scores he can generate. So massive payoff there. I'm still waiting on Diego Costa to see where the hell he's going to go. The longer it goes on, the more nervous I'm getting. I'm not going to lie.
He's end up Saudi Arabia or something. Like, no.
Mate, I must Twitter search him like every 2 days or something, and for a few days it was still like China, and I thought, oh, that'd be brilliant. But the last couple of days it's been, oh, it might be Brazil, because he wants to stay in Brazil because his family and this, that, and the other thing. I didn't realise until I was looking into it recently, but like I'm talking about that day ago or 2 days ago, I was listening to a podcast they were talking about him. And they said, I didn't realise this, but Atletico Madrid like cancelled his contract. It's like almost like a kind of goodwill thing, like, oh, you've done us well in the past, and you've gave us, he must have gave them some sort of sob story, because he has, I think part of that agreement, the podcast was kind of talking about saying he can't move within Europe, or Atletico will be raging with him and they'll take him to court and all that. Which makes me then again think it will be a non-EU transfer, which then again you're likely going to be. So hopefully it's not Saudi Arabia, Mark. I hope we're not jinxing it.
The other wee element I was thinking, like, obviously numerically when you see the situation with the super rares and you see the situation with the goalkeepers, it's just the pure scarcity and the demands. Like, people want these cards, and obviously it's more demand. But the other thing I've been thinking about as well is the fact that the J League and everything only came last year, and it's not become popular. The site's not really become popular in Asia or anything yet. So obviously, if you think about clubs and you listen to like the podcast with Nicholas and stuff, he was talking about doing marketing in America and doing marketing in Asia. So if you get some of these guys that say I picked up Shanatip, and I think he's a good player, but he was injured, etc. But if he starts smashing it, he's doing really well. But also, if the site becomes a bit bigger in places like Asia, you can find there'll be more demand for the likes of these cards as well. Yeah. So I find that quite interesting, because just now, like, it feels as if like there's less demand for cards in Asia, or the prices are more attractive or whatever, or people struggle more to get into them because they don't know the players as well. But I think that, as things go on and it becomes like big in Asia, or let's say it becomes a craze in Japan or whatever, like some of these guys could potentially skyrocket as well. So I think it might not happen, it might just be talking rubbish, but it's kind of good to think about these things as well, when you actually you're buying somebody, it's a good wee extra angle to have. So
no, big time. Because I've got two goalkeepers. One I got recently who's a J League goalkeeper. They're both Polish, which is a pure coincidence. And I got the Titan, and Ross will know because I was chatting to him quite a lot at the time. I was hunting down a super rare Titan for a while, and I managed to get him at a really good price. I was happy with at the time. I think now, so it was like 0.4 of an ETH, and I think the equivalent now is maybe or I think at the time the price equivalent would maybe be about 150 quid or something. It wasn't too amazing. But with the Titan and with the Slovic, both of those purchases, when I bought both of those goalkeepers, I was thinking, you will be what gets me into D2, if that makes sense. Because I think for D2, obviously you can play with one rare, but I really don't want that rare to be a goalkeeper, because goalkeepers can notoriously score rotten. Whereas and this is me thinking about my own gallery, if I can go into a D2 situation with a super rare a super rare team, and then my one rare, because I don't have a unique yet, that's going to fill out the 5, is somebody like a Carlos Vela, is somebody like a Depay, a Goretzka, a top level rare, then I fancy my chances of doing well in D2. Whereas if I'm going into D2 with 5 super rares and then one goalkeeper who's just a rare, then I think I'm really relying on all the super rares hitting. Whereas if I've got the goalkeeper already sitting back as a super rare, is going to get the 125% no matter what, then I feel like your chances of success, and this is me speculating because I've not made that jump yet, but I think that will pay off easier potentially than going in with a rare goalkeeper. So that was my kind of thought process in terms of, for the goalkeeper specifically, what I need these guys for. With some of them, like as you were kind of saying, Mark, I think in the first part of this, you kind of start off, you've got 1 or 2, then you blink your eyes and you get 15. Like, how the hell did I get all these super rares? I remember when I bought Efrain Alvarez, right? He was a kind of, just because he was 17 and he's a bit of a prospect, I thought I'm buying a super rare for him. And for me at the time, that was a massive marquee card because it was somebody I'd earmarked. But sometimes those guys, like some of the transfers I've made, like an Efrain Alvarez, it's like I'm buying him not just for now, but for, when I get him to level 20, or for when he does break into the first team, or when he does, like a Dodo or something, when he does get his transfer to Italy or Germany or Spain or whatever. They're going to pay off something down the road. So I think we've made the decision to buy super rares for a couple of different reasons, but we share those couple of different reasons. I think they're all quite similar. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I exactly what you said there about you've got to think to the future as well. Like, none of my guys that I've got super rare are over 30.
Really?
I've looked to the future and just sort of thought, well, if I've got you at a certain level, I don't want to just get one season out of you. Like, that's fine. I've seen someone like You'll Never Walk Alone, he bought a Pepe Reina, and that just slotted into one of these, I think, D2 teams or something.
Nice.
So that's great when you've got a big collection. You can take a punt on these kind of players playing, but if you want to get maximum utility out of these people and you're spending what is a large amount to you, you want to then be able to get a lot of years of utility out of them. So even they don't have to be under 23s, but I think somewhere like 29 and under is a solid thing. And the only ones that really are against that rule for me is Lynch came in, who's just going to be a sort of he's probably just going to go into an all-star team because he's got solid scores, and Johnny Russell, who I think is more than likely going to come back to Scotland at some point. So depending on
at some point.
him coming back, exactly, at some point. I mean, you're living the life out in America. You're the MVP for your club last season. I don't think he'll be back anytime soon, but I can see him finishing his career here. And I mean, he's Scottish, so you have to pick him up. He'll still get, because he's really kept good minutes himself. So he's 29 now. You'll maybe get 7-8 years out of him still. So that's about having a bit of background knowledge of that specific player. But apart from that, I've just tried to keep it 27 and under if I can, so that I know that I'm going to get 6 years average utility at their peak power.
Yeah. 10 of my 15 super rares under 23s, I've just realised. That's quite cool.
That's good planning, yeah.
That's good.
I've always thought of that way though, like, I'll take a punt on this 33-year-old, but I'll only get him as a rare because I might only get a couple of years out of him.
Yeah.
That's just sort of the way that I've always thought about stuff like that. I'm more than happy to have someone like Ian Aga make up part of my Asian team who plays for Kawasaki, but he'll be 34 this year, going on 35. So it's like, I'm under no illusion that I need to get a lot of utility out of him and not a lot of time.
Yeah, 15 years out of him in Japan, Ross.
No problem
playing until they're 50.
I was watching the Kengo Nakamura tribute on YouTube. It was like 3 minutes, and it was saying he hadn't won anything. I think he had like a 17-year career with them. Hadn't won anything until about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Since then, he's won every trophy in Japan.
Nice. Kawasaki have been
quite
on
a
it.
story, that one.
Another one I'll kind of finish this little segment on. We're talking about the needs. That's kind of what we started the video on. When I bought this one probably won't go out the way I planned it when I executed it, right? But I bought Cuisance I was hoping what that would be a cheap way to get a Bayern super rare. And I don't really, from what I heard before Villas Boas get knocked anyway, I think Marseille might try and make that signing permanent. So that angle of the trade probably won't pay off for me.
He's quality as well, though, isn't he? I mean, he does look like a good player. He was doing really well, and was it Mönchengladbach he was with?
Yeah, I'm sure it was Mönchengladbach. But with a lot of the leagues that are covered by SoRare, Eredivisie, Jupiter League, even like teams like Porto are getting a lot of players on loan from bigger clubs, and I think some of these super rares, if you think about like Tobido for example, goes on loan to Benfica, doesn't kick a ball. Yeah. That loan's cancelled, and he's now at Nice, and he's starting centre back with Saliba. That Tobido super rare that you could have got dirt cheap in the middle of December because he was not playing at all, is now became probably a very good champion stroke under 23 card all of a sudden,
Yeah, I bought 3 of his rares actually. I got him
lovely
20 quid each.
Yeah. And again, the ultimate end game with somebody like Tobido is if he goes back to Barca and he gets into the squad, then you've got a super rare for Barca before they're even licensed, already leveled up, you've got them cheap, So I think some super rares can give you some entry points into really expensive teams if you're waiting to kind of hold on it and let it come to fruition, let it mature.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I do agree with that. I mean, if you kind of look at that, it's kind of like Marcos, Antonio, and Dodo. I think they will score Ukraine at some point. The thing with the Brazilian guys there is they do tend to stay at Shakhtar for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's a wee bit of a calculated gamble, but also they're 2 quality young players, and like, I'm going to get a lot of use out of them anyway, and I think that they were both severely underpriced when you look at what some of the top young guys go for. I mean, say they do score Ukraine, say that comes off next season or even the year after, and they're still there, they'll be very, very valuable cards, I think, because they both
dominate
score really well. Yeah, I mean, they hammer teams sometimes. They do a lot of rotation just now because they've got a big squad and everything, all COVID stuff, but they're always in Europe. They're a good team, so yeah.
Magic. I was going to